Good afternoon. It is 4:30 on Monday, February 14th. I call this meeting of the Clear Creek Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present and that this meeting has been duly called and that its notice has been posted in accordance with Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. And seeing no community input, I will turn it over to Dr. Bayard, who will present our mental health resources and supports.
Good. Well, good afternoon. This is one of our targets for the 2021-22 school year, looking at mental health resources and supports. And I want to begin by thanking our school counselors. Last week was National School Counselor Week, and we are so grateful for all of our counselors in CCISD for the wonderful support for not only students, but also staff and our families. So thank you to those of you here and to those of you at home. I'm also happy to be joined today by four awesome counselors by profession with Dava West. She is our Director of Counseling and Support Services, Student Services. Ms. Christina Ford, she is our Assistant Director of Counseling and Student Services. Julio Marquina, counselor at Clearview High School, and Denisha Demouche, counselor at Clearview High School. I'm sorry, Ed White Elementary School. Maybe today you can be Clearview, but usually Ed White.
You almost gave Holly a heart attack.
Congratulations.
But the great thing is that our counselors could be anywhere.
That's true.
Although I did happen to be looking at his expression when you spoke.
Back when we developed our strategic plan, our focus was so much on the physical safety of our students. And as we all know, in the last 2 years, the mental health safety of our students has really magnified due to COVID. In fact, just to kind of transition into the superintendent's targets, there has been a significant impact of COVID-19 on people, some a little bit and some in major ways. But for some, COVID-19 has produced some traumatic experiences that could leave people feeling hopeless, helpless, or unable to do anything about that situation. And what that does is it's related to stress response. And this is not just related to COVID, but stress response triggered by any kind of trauma in which there's an increase in adrenaline, cortisol, heart rate, breath rate, or muscle tension. While some stress is good, prolonged stress is what produces dysregulated nervous system that leads to trauma. And that trauma can manifest itself into different reactions or symptoms that might be emotional, behavioral, cognitive, or physical. And then anyone who suffers that or knows of someone who has gone through that trauma or even hears about it could also suffer some of the same symptoms. And all that related to ultimately impacts on an individual, family, community, or societal strains such as financial, unhealthy ideations, need for healthcare, substance abuse, etc. And so that kind of is a precursor into leading into the reason for mental health resource supports. And as we've seen since we've returned back in September of even 2020, the behavioral challenge of students have increased for us in our schools. And so we're thankful for our counselors and for the opportunity to have this as a superintendent target this year. This is related to health and safety and also aligned to the community-based accountability pillar of safety and well-being. And that is that we ensure students are educated in an optimal environment that is safe, secure, and conducive to learning. In our strategic plan, it's related to strategy 1, we'll foster a safe and nurturing environment. And our specific result statement is that we will have an intentional focus on safety and security. The beginning part of this presentation, which Ms. West is going to join me next, is related to the fidelity metrics. To what extent have we implemented our action steps? This particular action step is that we'll have mental health resources and supports for students at each campus. So Ms. West is going to take us through some of those resources available for counselors and students.
Thank you, Dr. Bayard. So in CCISD, we work very hard to have an extensive resource list available for students and family as their students may be struggling with the mental health need. We don't have this as an outward-facing document. We have it as an internal document that our counselors all have access to through our It's Learning platform, and they also have something called a counselor playbook, which they can figure out how to find the resources as well. We like our counselors to have that available because when a family is meeting with them about a mental health concern, we want them to match the resource to the situation going on. It's probably about a 5 or 6 page document that has a lot of different information on it, and we don't just want parents to try to figure that out. We try to help them navigate to the best provider in our area to get them the best help that they can get. Christina and I are often contacted by providers in the area about, hey, we want to get on your resource list, and we don't just add them just because they ask. Usually if they want to be added, if it's an individual provider, we have them come to our student support counselor meetings, both intermediate and high school. They do a presentation in front of the student support counselors so we can get a feel of what kind of services they truly provide before we're referring families out to that. Our student support counselors also go out into the community and they visit some of the providers, some of the resources we have on our list, whether it be a hospital or an individual provider. So we can gather that information and be very familiar with it and get feedback from families. We also do that so that when we are saying your student is struggling in this area, we know that these providers on this list could truly help your family. We feel confident in that referral that we're giving that family. So that's one of the things that we do. It's over 30 different agencies, individual providers, facilities, hospitals, psychiatrists, psychologists, licensed counselors. So we try to cover all gamut of what our students' needs may be. On our outward-facing web page, we do provide emergency information. So at ccisd.net/counseling, we know that families might be searching for anything, and maybe they get with that counselor right away. So we still want to have this information readily available for them that they can access on our district website. So these are all the different hotline numbers that they can contact. It might be local, and our students may be looking for this information on our webpage as well. So we want to make sure we have a gamut of information available for them so that they can pick what their need is at that particular moment, whether it be the student might feel more comfortable texting, or a family might feel more comfortable using an 800 number. So we do have those, and so hopefully we can get the immediate crisis response with these numbers, and then when they're meeting with their individual counselors on campus, they can grow that response by using those resources that we have available.
We also have some community partnerships. In addition to the agencies in our area, we have some partnerships. You can see a list of some of them on the screen. A couple that I'd love to highlight is the first one is Communities in Schools. The Bay Area, we're so excited, they just got a $2 million grant to feed into the communities and schools of Bay Area. We also partner with our local health authorities. Since we're in 2 different counties, we partner with Harris Center, which is the Harris County Local Mental Health Authority, and the Gulf Coast Center, which is a Galveston County Local Mental Health Authority. They help us with a variety of things. One of the partnerships that we have with them is that if a student is already in their care, either one can come and contact us and come provide direct counseling services on campus to their student during the school day to support students who are already under the umbrella of the Gulf Coast Center or the Harris Center. We also have a partnership with them, and many other areas do, is that if a counselor is working with a student or a family and that student is having a mental health crisis, they each have a mental health crisis hotline that we can call and get support for those families as soon as possible. Another one that a CCISD has is our EAP, or our Employee Assistance Program through ComPsych. So that is a confidential line that our staff can have to call if they need counseling. So if there might be some counseling resources, they can call and they get 6 sessions for free through EAP. There's also a plethora of resources out there, such as financial information that they can get support on, and different resources online that any staff member in CCISD has available to them.
Thank you, Ms. Ford. And so we have a wealth of resources that do exist for students at each of our campuses, as both Dave and Christina have shared. The next set of indicators we'd like to share with you, or evidence, is related to the effectiveness metrics. What evidence do we have that these actually have led to a change in effectiveness? And for this one, We've shared that students, staff, and families have access to and utilize resources and supports based on individual need, including connections with community partnerships and individual group student conferencing. You heard about the agencies that exist there. Each secondary student will have a visit with a counselor during the school year that includes a check-in regarding their social, emotional, and/or mental wellness. The secondary and elementary levels, the average number of student visits with the counselor that include a check-in regarding social, emotional, and/or mental wellness will be 3 and 1 respectively. And near the end of the presentation, we'll share with you our progress of approaching the 3 check-ins and 1 check-in and what that means in terms of the data that we have collected.
So how are our counselors doing this? They're doing it through a lot of mental health check-ins, and they initiate them in a variety of ways. One of the ways that they initiate them is through student requests. Our counselors have gotten very creative of finding ways to meet our students' needs. They have QR code posters out where students can scan and request a counselor. They have it's learning pages where students can go online and get a form to let their counselor know that they need to be seen. And they also have in-paper check-in forms some campuses do that a counselor can just request to see their counselor. Then we also do observation. Our counselors are out and about throughout the school day at lunches, in hallway passing periods, in classrooms. And just by observing our students, we'll see if we need to do a check-in with a student. Our secondary counselors are also doing academic conferences in 6 through 12. And so through that, every student will have an individual academic counseling session with their counselor. Within this, we've built in a mental health check-in so that if we see a student we want to check in on how they're doing emotionally and socially, and then we go into the academic piece. We also have our student support counselors that Ms. West mentioned earlier, and they are just wonderful at really meeting the mental health needs of our students. They also have skill-based groups that they use that they're meeting the needs of our students. Then we have teachers and parents referrals that we're constantly working with teachers on students and parents on how we can help them. And last but not least, we have observations by our counselors during their guidance curriculum, which is part of our comprehensive school counseling program when our counselors are going in and providing prevention services for our students. And within that, counselors build in mental health check-ins so we can check in on each student to see if there's any students that we need to do some follow-up on. So what we would like to do is actually show you a quick video of some of those mental health check-ins in action.
Hi, I'm Trisha Del Bello. I'm the counselor here at Gilmore, and this is my 10th year here to be the counselor. So this is my room where I do groups and individuals. Of course, pre-COVID might look a little different than COVID right now. This year, I'm doing more in this room, more of a one-on-one with students. I'm really not doing even small groups in here. I'll usually take care of individual issues, and then I'll see students, whole group, maybe in their classroom where I do lessons, and sometimes I go down, well, actually a lot of times I go down and visit the cafeteria during lunch and talk to the kids there. I have this Today I Feel with the different emojis. And I'll just have that for the students to look at, and they'll move the emojis around so that I can kind of get a good feel of how they're feeling, and then we talk about that. Whenever they're using this with their hands, then it kind of gets them a little bit more comfortable, and then they start talking about, because what I'll do is I'll say, well, tell me about this emoji. Tell me about this feeling. So however it is that they're feeling, I try to give them something that they can do, a coping tool that they can take with them wherever they go, whether it's back to the classroom, to the lunchroom, even at home. I wanted to help kids deeper than what maybe a teacher could help, because teachers are just so busy in the classroom with curriculum. I wanted to be that person that they could come to and help them through whatever it is that they were going through in life. So this job is it's not even a job, it's more of a mission.
I'm Annette Propp. I'm one of the student support counselors here at Clear Lake High School, and I've been working here going on 7 years. So this is my office, working with students on a variety of issues, symptoms of depression, anxiety, grief, social skills, things like that that most of our high school kids have an issue with from time to time. So we sit at the table here. Because we're in social distancing mode, they have a choice of sitting at any of the chairs behind the screen or without the mask, or on this side face to face with the mask. But a lot of times I find that most of what the kids are wanting are to be listened to. So we do a lot of talking and listening here. If times come where we need some other items to kind of help them feel more relaxed, come down from the anxiety, we've got things to distract. These are one of my favorites. This is a Where's Waldo wand. Often what we find is when they're done, whatever they came in for is not as big of a deal. We're able to talk more on a less emotional level. So these are distractions to use. Every day is always different. It's unpredictable, but we're ready to be able to just be here for the kids whenever they come. So kids come a variety of ways. Sometimes they'll come on their own in between classes, and if my door's open, they know they're welcome to come in. And at that point, we just kind of get into what it is that's on their mind. It's kind of a wraparound kind of service that we'd like to provide, where we're working with parents, our staff here, our administration here, our communities and schools to be able to give students the best opportunity to be successful. They're growing up in a time when that's very new for all of us, and there's changes happening all the time. So there's bound to be times where they struggle, and so being able to be that person or one of the people that they can come to and have that trust build and be able to make a difference for them, I'm very honored to be able to do that.
So we are thankful for Ms. Del Bello and Ms. Prop for sharing their stories with us. This video wasn't captured within the last couple weeks specifically for this. What's nice about that is that this was captured early last semester for an Inside CCISD event, actually, and but it fit perfectly for this session right here. As I mentioned at the beginning, we are thankful to have Mr. Matkina and Ms. Demouche to share their experiences about how they bring to life the mental health check-ins in their practice at their respective schools. So I'm going to turn it over first to Mr. Matkina.
Thank you, Dr. Bayer. Pretty much, my philosophy about counselor comes with one word. I can sum it up with one word, which is visibility. Visibility shows my students that I care for them, that I am there for them to listen and give them an empathetic ear. The students at VIEW can reach their counselor by scanning the QR code and filling out the form. The QR code can be located anywhere. We have them in the gym, in the cafeteria, library, every hall, classroom, bathrooms, in their It's Learning page, and they can also reach us through email. So when the students fill out the form, it comes to my email. It also comes to my phone. It also comes to my watch. So I know exactly when the kids need me. I check to see if it's important. If it is, because I walk around a lot. If it is, then I go get them. So I want them to be able to reach us as fast as we can, and we get to them as fast as we can. So like I said, I do constant walkthroughs to do check-ins with my students. I have like a thumbs up and a kind of wave to them when they see me. So and I follow the district's check-in, the mental check-in, which 1 is I'm having a great day, 5 is I need help. So they can, they give me I'm walking through the halls, I see them in a little window, I give them a thumbs up, they give me a thumbs up, everything's fine. If they give me a hey, then I can pull them right away and we can talk and see what their issue is. I gave myself morning duty because I wanna get the temperature of the kids mentally and emotionally where they are from the beginning. So if I see a student in distress right off the bat, then I can see them right away. So hopefully they can have a better day. And then we have at the end of the day where we greet them and we say goodbye. How was your day? Did it get better? That way they can see us all the time. So my check-ins also, we have them when they come to my office, right off when they come in, when they fill out the form, they do a check-in. Where are you right now? They can tell me a 1 or a 2, and then we talk about it. We also do it through our yearly academic conferences, where I check their mental health, and we talk about their credits, the classes recommended for the following year, and also what they want to do up beyond high school. so we can kind of set them up in that pathway. In our conference worksheet, which is shown up there, that's where I talk to them. And in the back, it tells, I can write down where they were mentally that day. Also, I see them twice a week for win time. As a support counselor, I have 2 support groups with students weekly. First thing we do in the group is check in their mental health, so I can see where the group is mentally for the meeting. Like I said before, the more visible I am for my students, I feel that they know that there's an adult in the building that cares for them. One of the stories that I can share with you guys is that we were doing just a regular sophomore conference, and I asked the student where were they that day, and they told me they were at 4. So I said, well, that's kind of high. Do you want to talk about where you are? And what had happened to the student is that their garage had set on fire. And they hadn't talked about it to anybody. I mean, they kept it in the family, but he was able to share with me. We were able to connect the family with our partners, and they were able to give them food and clothes, and it just took a lot of the burden away from them. So it's great that we have this, that we can check on them, because sometimes students don't say anything. But if you push them and say, hey, where are you right now? And then they're able to talk about it. So again, I want us to be as visible as possible, so the students can build a rapport with me, and then they can tell me whenever they feel like there's something there or more that we can't see.
Thank you, Mr. Marquina. And next we have Ms. Demouche from Ed White Elementary School.
Good evening. Thank you for having me here. If I could sum up my role as a school counselor and speak on behalf of the other elementary and secondary school counselors, it would be difference maker. Each and every single day, we are out there doing a service not only to students, but also to families, and also to our teachers on campus as well. When we check in, we're not just checking in with the students. They're bringing in a backpack full of emotions and full of different behaviors they have coming in from home. And some of these behaviors are things that they cannot control. And so as a difference maker, it is my job and other counselors' jobs to be visible, as you stated, and actually getting to know them, building relationships. I as well do morning duties, and it is not just to be there because I have to be there, but it is there, I'm there because I want to be there. I am there connecting with students first thing in the morning and getting to know every single one of their names. And the amazing thing is when a student says, Ms. D, you actually know all of our names? I'm like, that's my job. If I don't know who you are and what you're going through, I am not doing my job as a counselor. And so for me, I am their safe place. I want to be their safe place. I want to be the person who they see in a hallway and say, oh, that's Ms. Demouche. She's my school counselor. And her job is to make sure that she's making a difference in my life each and every single day. So one of my things that I do is beyond check-ins, I do character lessons or guidance classes. I am in the classrooms. I do K1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5th grades. I do them every 3 weeks. I'm in there for 30 to 45 minutes. And the first thing that we do a check-in. And so it's the same check-in as you were mentioning. And so what I do is I have the students to kind of get a feel of the room. I ask them to close their eyes. They know it by heart now, so they know at 1 is having a great day and 5 I am struggling. But to kind of get a good temperature check of the classroom, I ask them to close their eyes. And I tell them that at this moment, just imagine Ms. D just wants to see how you are doing. I want to know if you need extra support. And if you do, that I remind you of what to do for that extra support. So they close their eyes. And I have them do like a sneaky number. So they I'm in the front of the room, they're like, 1, 2, I know, elementary, I'm so elementary, so sorry. But I have them do a sneaky number because that's between myself and the student. And so they close their eyes, and I make sure there's no peeking. I think, no peeking, no peeking. And so they do that, and they actually will do their 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. And I tell them, if you don't feel comfortable with actually displaying that number, you don't have to. You do not have to at all. That's your comfort level. And so then if there are students, I ask them to dance, okay, release your fingers, relax your fingers. And I say, okay, I'm gonna count to 3, open your eyes. They open their eyes. And they know that at any time I say, okay, if you're at a 3, we can decide if we're gonna go up to that 1 or go down to that 5. And if you're feeling like today cannot be turned around, you're gonna drop back down to a 5 or go to a 5, talk to me at the end of class. Talk to me. You can just, and the teachers know they can just walk out, tip out with me, and we have a conversation. If I need to take them to my office where it's more confident, confidentiality, we would do that as well. And so, how they can access Miss Desmond when she's not in class, I'm usually all over the building. I'm like all over the building every single day, because I just love kids, and I love what I do. And if I am not there for them, they cannot see me, then I'm actually not doing my job. And so I have QR codes. They're located in the classrooms. So the classrooms have QR codes posted, see the counselor. And when they actually access that code, it goes the same as yours. It goes to my email, and I get it instantly. There's also a QR code in the front office, because there are times where parents are dropping their kids off and they're having a rough morning. And if I'm in a cafeteria, I don't see that, I can't get to it. So the parents have a Handle with Care QR code. They click, scan that code, and they fill it out. It comes directly to me. It is also located in our school's newsletter, which goes out weekly as a reminder, and also for the students. So the students also have access to me as far as seeing Ms. Desmond with our It's Learning page. And so in the It's Learning page, they also have a cool calm down corner that they allow you to access virtually. They can also access it at home. They can use any tools there as well. For our lower elementary, they do utilize the paper forms. And so if they can't fill it out, they will ask their teacher. Teacher will help them. I have 2 forms, one for lower, one for upper, and they can either circle the emojis as they need and feel and see fit. Even in our block classes, they have how are you feeling, how are you doing display in their classrooms as well. And so kids know that it's not just in their core subject classrooms, but it's also accessible to them in their block classes too, because their behaviors and emotions don't stop when they exit outside of their core classroom, their homeroom classroom teacher's door. They exist throughout the entire day. And so all of our classrooms have a calm down corner. They have how are you feeling or how are you doing as well. And then it gives them some tools they can actually use and or do to help them calm down. And so the biggest thing as a school counselor is to make sure that we are there, that we are building relationships, and not just with the students, but also with the families as well. Because there are a lot of things that they can let us know or give us some light into to help support their student when they're having any social, emotional, or behavior needs are existing at school. It's really important to bridge that gap between home and school, and together we will do it. So yes, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Desmond.
Thank you.
Wonderful explanations of how the check-ins work and why they're so important, and the visibility of the counselors make all the difference in the world. We had a goal that we set at the beginning of the year that the average number of visits per secondary student would be 3. The average number of visits with a counselor for an elementary student that include mental health check-ins would be 1. And 1 was selected because of data. The data collection last year, there was an intentional focus at the secondary level, but this year we made sure that it was at every elementary school. And so, not knowing exactly where it would land because of last year, we selected 1, and we're well surpassing that. So at the secondary level, we have just about 22,800 students. Almost 18,000 of them have already had at least 1 office visit this year. Those 18,000 students have had a combined nearly 58,000 office visits. And so what that equals to is that 79% of our students have had an office visit, and the average number of visits per secondary student is 2.5. And what that means is that there might be a student that has 1 visit, but there might be a student that has something going on in their life, and they're going to the counselor for several weeks, maybe every day. Could be before school, during lunch, after school. But they're visiting the counselors, and so the average is 2.5 right now. And we believe we're going to get that up to 3. At elementary schools, the goal was 1. We have just over 18,000 elementary students. 14,500 of them have been to the counselor for 80%. or have seen a counselor. And when we say have seen a counselor, that also isn't necessarily the office. That could be a classroom visit. And so when a counselor visits the classroom, like Ms. Demouche was describing, of talking to all the kids and close your eyes, they're counting all the kids in that classroom as having an opportunity to share what might be going on in their life, whether it's all great or come talk to me. The number of visits, the total number of visits, whether from classroom interactions or individual interactions, is 48,000. And so that amounts to an average number of 2.7 visits per student. Again, the goal is for each student to visit the counselor at least once during the year, but some kids make it an opportunity to visit with a counselor more often based on their own need. So that concludes the presentation, and we'll be happy to answer any of your questions or receive any comments.
Thank you, Dr. Bayard. I'll open it up to any questions or comments. Dr. DuPont, do you want to go?
I'll go. I don't need to go first. Thank you for the presentation and for everything that's going on. I think the thing that hit me the most through the whole presentation was the QR codes, that both of you mentioned it, and I think that's fabulous because it really speaks to increasing the opportunity for access, which it definitely was needed as we moved through COVID, but even before that was probably needed. So I really appreciate that. My only question or comment really lies in the area of the resources that are available, and that you showed some of the relationships with different organizations. And I guess the question is, is it anywhere on our website that the community and parents, probably more parents and students, know that these relationships are out there, or do they have to visit a counselor in order to know what those relationships are?
It's not on the website per se. We could add our partnerships, but we, again, as I mentioned, when we're trying to pair up resources to families, we're really trying to align with what works best for that particular family. While we have the amazing partnerships to do maybe a mobile crisis, like Ms. Ford was talking about, the other resources we have, we usually try to pair them a little bit better with what's going on exactly. And having all of that on the website might be a little more overwhelming, not knowing how to navigate it.
I agree. The thing in all of it that I worry about is the kids that are missed, the children that don't say they had a fire in their garage, or don't say whatever else is going on, and don't want to use a QR code to actually talk to somebody, and just the other opportunities available to make everything available to those kids too.
Sure. There's actually one other place that students make available or have, they certainly utilize, and that's our anonymous hotline. We see those coming through every day, and sometimes it's an anonymous tip about something else, but sometimes it's about their own life of something that's going on. And then at ccisd.net/counseling, there are those hotlines and links to services such as National Safe Place or the Crisis Intervention of Houston, the National Suicide Intervention Line, the Lifeline, Crisis Text Line. Those are available by click or phone number that all students have available to them. And then we do have some of our community partnerships on our website as available, but not necessarily all of the 30 plus agencies that we're connected to.
Thank you.
Mr. Bowen?
And just to kind of echo what Dr. DuPont said, I really liked, Mr. Martino, when you said that you push students to say, where are you right now? Because it often is the students who maybe don't think of themselves as needing these services, or wouldn't assume that that's something that's for them who need it the most. And so I like hearing that you have those touches with students with every single one of them, where they're basically almost forced on kind of an individual level to tell you how they're doing, because it's not always the ones who need the most help are not the ones who are always going to seek it out. And so what I wonder though is, you're at Clearview, where there's a smaller student population. I think kind of the whole mindset of Clearview is geared toward helping the students who are there, because they're there because they need extra support. And so the school is kind of targeted toward providing that for them. But at our other high schools and intermediate schools, are we pursuing students to, do we have the resources at those schools? I mean, the personnel and to be able to do that kind of on an equivalent level?
I do feel as though we do. When we started the individual academic conference, and even though it has the academic conference title to it, we included that mental health check-in. And so every counselor on an intermediate or high school level is doing that mental health check-in. And when they get a 4 or a 5, that academic conference stops, and then they're able to address whatever that need is, very much like Julio does. So I feel as though we do, and then if it is a tier 2 or tier 3 and continued need, at all of our secondary campuses, we have those student support counselors who now can tag team. So we now have 2 counselors working with one student to try to meet their needs. And so while yes, there are large numbers, we still have processes in place to support those students at those campuses as well.
And we are thankful for the board for adding 18 new counselor positions over the last 4 years, and 2 new full-time social work service positions that help to meet the needs of our students.
And can I ask a follow-up? Kind of on that subject too, have we looked at using technology to help with this? I mean, the dream could be something like every day when a student logs in, they get a little question that asks how they're doing. And maybe if they answer that they're doing very poorly, it would flag something and there would be a follow-up later. I mean, have we ever looked at anything like that to kind of, even if they're not individual check-ins, they're at least giving students an opportunity that they can't avoid to maybe throw up a red flag and say they need help?
We've not used technology, but what we did do last year is we empowered all of our staff and provided different ways that they could do check-in with students, and a lot of teachers call them temperature checks. And our teachers actually help us with that too, and they do the temperature checks very much like Ms. DeMarche does, and then those teachers then refer those students down to the counselor if they see something going on. And we have some amazing observant teachers as well. And so if a body language or all of the emotions or the behavior is off, those teachers then are referring those students. But to answer your question directly, no, we have not looked at technology. We want it to be purposeful, and sometimes if it's going to be like an everyday thing, it might just become
routine
in a part of the background. Like, I got to get through this to get on to the next thing. Whereas if the student has it in an academic conference or in an individual meeting whenever they're coming down, it's a little bit more purposeful.
Okay.
And we get better information.
Thank you.
Mr. Cottrell?
Sure. I may take a few minutes, or a little while. Thank you very much for the presentation and everything that you're doing. So the QR codes at the front office at White, you mentioned, is that something we have at every school, like elementary and high school at the front office?
I can't answer that yes or no, because I know there are various campuses. Some have them, some don't. It just depends. They kind of know what their audience and their crowd is like and choose to figure out how to use them that way.
And I just think as a parent, and you go into your daughter's intermediate school and maybe there's a QR code there, and your daughter's having a rough day, or you're going through a fire in the garage or something like that convenient. That may be something to have everywhere. The wraparound services are amazing, and I'm glad to see that they're being utilized. I remember, I think it was about 3 years ago, one of the counselors wrote a grant with the Ed Foundation. It may have been Mossman Elementary, but and you're nodding, so maybe you know what I'm talking about. But it's amazing. It's exciting to see what we do, and then I think about what the Mossman grant was for. I would like to see us try to put that out there more for those resources. Because really letting the parents know that, that the plethora of resources, I love the word.
Thank you.
We have a plethora. Y'all know what movie that's from, right? But yeah, we have so many out there, and then the resources for y'all, like the Education Foundation, to write a grant and have additional resources to help with those needs. And so a question that just went through my mind while I'm hearing about the students and the parents, what about the teachers? Having those resources there for the teachers. Do y'all ever come across teachers that come in and say, hey, I need help? And because if they're having a bad day, it trickles down into the classroom, and making sure we can address those teachers as well. So with that, yeah, I had written down, and I know Brian's back there, safe and secure QR codes. I know we've got the anonymous hotline, but is there a general, maybe QR code or something like that even, that goes to, his office, or that, again, people don't know where to go, and that QR code creates that opportunity for somebody to see something and say something, whether it's an emotional need or a threat, safety need. So just to have that as an idea as well, that we can be prepared for. But other than that, yes, you're all difference makers, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
I was just going to say thank you. As I was listening to you all and the remarks that you made, you talked about being visible and knowing that students could come to you. I think the other parts that go with that is that you're trusted and you're accessible, and that you ultimately are maintaining students kind of at the heart of what you do. We've had the chance over the last few workshops to hear from different leaders like you that have talked about professional learning communities, that have talked about the coaching that they're doing, about the literacy coaches, and now hearing from counselors. And I think what weaves through all of that is really our focus on students, remaining student-centered. And so it's not a perfect science, but it's an intentional one. And I think the things that you all shared today give us, assurance that we're, doing the right thing. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
And I guess I just wanted to add that I liked Mr. Marquina and Ms. Demouche when you said that you are visible. That's a vital, I think, role. I know after Santa Fe, I got asked that all the time, we don't see our SLOs in the front office, and I said, I hope you don't. I want them to be out and about, in our community interacting with the kids. That's where they need to be. So I think that that's important. Also, I wanted to echo, because my question, and I had written down, how do we advertise these services to our school family? I think the challenge is making sure, yes, we know, and I guess our students and maybe our families that do know that we offer these services, but just now when I heard, 30 mental health, agencies available, I didn't know that. And I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one. But getting to Dr. DuPont's point, I understand that, we have to match up the agency to the situation, which is obviously smart. But just letting our school community know that these services are available, I think, for our parents and our community that has been paying attention, we intentionally beefed up our counseling department after Santa Fe, because we realized that it was the mental health of our students that was important, and not necessarily the policing aspect of it, although we did address that as well. But how do we get that across to our community that may not know to ask, or may feel uncomfortable, approaching are maybe in a situation, and I use maybe a school like McWhorter, for example, that may not know that those services are available to them. So that's, I guess, we'll address those as we go along, but I want to be cognizant to the fact that, our community may not know that these services are available to them, and we want to make sure, whether it's on the website or QR codes, visible and being uniform in each school, so at least maybe somebody will ask, hey, what's that QR code for? Oh, they may not say it right then, but, oh, I may need that. Or I can refer that, to a neighbor or to a friend or something like that. Mr. Bowen?
Just to kind of add something on that point too, there's not knowing about a service, not knowing that it exists in the first place, but even if it's well known and well marketed, there might be people who look at it and assume, well, that's not for me. That's something other people use, but that's not something I need, or that's not a service that would be beneficial to me. And so really personalizing it and making every student and parent realize that what benefits these services offer specifically, and that they would be open to them, I think is also important.
Several of you mentioned about that transparency of services. Certainly something we can work on with communications department, because there's so many agencies that do provide services that are also bilingual for several of them, and was in the addendum that I provided to you in the Friday packet. So we can work on producing greater transparency of the agencies that are available as we're allowed to, based on their permissions also.
Yeah, I guess I would add one more thing. I think, as I was looking at our website, just looking at what was available on there, and I think a lot of times many of these services are associated, or people will associate them with at-risk students. And there is a definition of at-risk that is on our website that is that long, however many point definition of at-risk. But truly, those are not the only at-risk students. There are lots of other at-risk students out there. And so, and I think Mr. Bowen, I think that's what you were addressing too when you talk about getting to all of those. So I really do agree with that. And Mr. Cottrell, you mentioned the Mossman grant, and I think that maybe was at an inside program one time when we were over at Mossman and found out about it was the character programs, and then it was also that grant. And I think even at that, the attendants at Inside were given, or at least shown, a page that had the different partnerships too. And so maybe that's just something making the community aware that those partnerships do exist, and to get to them, if you ever think that there's a need, that you can go through a counselor or give some other ways of getting to them.
And one thing I've learned from working with our fine counselors here over the years is that while some psychological services are for specific people, counseling is for everyone. Everyone. We all benefit from counseling and from someone who is willing to listen and when we're ready for that advice, when we're ready. But it's for everyone.
And I do know that you all are out on campuses, particularly when there's a crisis, working with the teachers, to Mr. Cottrell's question about it. So I do know that those that is well within your toolbox.
Yeah, and my point was really just to make sure, everyone knows it's the students, the parents, and then of course the teachers as well. So the grant that I had mentioned that you referenced, it was a student teacher grant. And I remember interviewing the students because it was their idea. And they said, you know what, we want a space when we're having a bad day that we can just go and just let it out, And it was a collaboration with the teacher. And I remember thinking at the time, and even the conversation in the room was, wouldn't it be great if this was at every elementary school? For the kids to know that they have some place when they're at a level 5 and they just want to go in and, just pull their hair out, but not physically, but just have that day that they feel like they want to do that. But again, the Education Foundation is, phenomenal resource. But so anyway, I appreciate what y'all are doing. Thank you.
I'd just like to say, I think I would almost be willing to lay money on it, that this kind of program is going to reduce the disciplinary issues, because those students are going to learn that they can go and talk it out instead of misbehave and act it out. So I'm thrilled that we've hired all the student support counselors that we've got, because it's desperately needed, particularly after what we're going through with COVID. So thank you.
I guess I do have a question. How would we go about measuring the effectiveness of our services? I mean, I can see metrics here for how often the check-ins are and things like that, but how do we know that people are opening up when they need to and getting the help they need when they need it? Is there a way we can kind of get a handle on that?
I feel one of the ways that we have been looking at that is the number of office visits. The number, in secondary, we've been doing the Skyward office visits for about 5 years now, and every year those numbers are increasing. So to me, that means students are seeking out assistance from their counselor. And some of the data we've collected this year is our top reasons for going. At first were academic and then personal, and this year personal and guidance curriculum has overtaken the academic piece. So while that might not be the metric we were looking for, that to me is showing our students are utilizing our services. When it comes to some of the other things, we're starting to walk into some confidentiality and what exactly those end results are. So sometimes that can we don't necessarily want to keep track of all the students that may be or have been going to a mental health hospital or a counselor. We make resources available, and we don't want to cross over into breaching some of the confidentiality we have with that information as well. But I think the office visits are really showing that our kiddos are seeking out the services.
Very good.
Well, thank you once again for giving us a snapshot into your day and what, the counseling services has to offer. So greatly appreciated.
Yeah, and I just want to express gratitude as well for the work that you do each and every day. And Dr. Bayard referenced Council Appreciation Week last week. So I actually want to thank the board for spending the time. There's a limited number of workshops, and so I appreciate you all spending this much time, because that communicates actually sincere appreciation and interest by spending a good hour doing a deep dive, and so I think that signals that the work is valued. So thank you, board members, also for committing the time.
All right. And with that, at this time, the board will now move to closed session as authorized by the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Section 551.001, concerning purposes permitted by the Act, including 551.071, consultation with attorney, 551.072, deliberation regarding real property, or 551.074, deliberate the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignments, duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public employee, or to hear a complaint or charge against an employee. So with that, we'll move into closed session at 5:24. back into open session, and I will ask for a motion on item 6.
Mr. Chair, I would move that in accordance with Board Policy FNG Local, that the Board of Trustees designate a hearing officer to consolidate the level 4 grievances and hear those consolidated parent-student grievances and make a written recommendation for disposition to the board.
Thank you, Mr. Larson. Do I have a second?
I guess I'll second it.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Bowen. So we have a motion and a second. I'll call for, if there's no comment, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, please raise your right hand. And all opposed. Any abstentions? So the motion passes 6 with 1 abstention. And I will call this meeting adjourned at 5:57.